Sorry, just give me 1 second. I'm just straining this camera a little bit. That's better. At least you can see me properly. So, hey everybody, this is me, Roger Aladdin Daltrey, and I'm doing yous a 1-year anniversary video today, and it's going to be for something that happened to me, basically, for a change. So, I just thought I'd now do it for you. So this will be a 1-year anniversary of my graduation from Donaway Community College, which incidentally, my original year group had their graduation yesterday, because of me skipping 4th year due to the age I was. So I think it's a bit crazy for me to think that I have finished school now for a year. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you. Basically, I'm going to run you through the program of my graduation, basically, and I'll show you a few photos as well. Well, not at the graduation, obviously, but just some photos at Newbridge, which is in Donaway. So this was the program that the audience got. Just zoom it in for you so you can see. Really cool. Okay, and then the start of it has a message from my principal and my deputy principal. And I have to admit, they were really nice people, actually. I have to admit that they were actually. I had some good crack with them as well. And then here we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you this format of how each one went, and then what I'm going to do is I will save the classes for future videos, because otherwise we're going to be here all day. So anyway, so this is how it worked. Chapter 1. Well, they're not really called chapters, they're just like different segments of it, basically, but I tend to call it chapters if this was shooted on DVD or something. So anyway, Chapter 1 was the entrance procession of classes, and basically what that is that basically the classes, along with their class tutors, take their seats in the graduations once they graduate. And yeah, and it was followed by 6 classes, because I think this was probably the longest. Mine was probably the longest graduation that was ever had out there, because I know the one before me there was only 4 classes, so at least it was a little bit shorter than my one. Anyway, so and that's kind of, and Procession there is actually a song title by Queen, and it comes up, and it's the opening track from the Queen 2 record, which I kind of see as a populous intro to the album. Because to me, the first proper track on that album is Father to Son. And Father to Son is also a song title by Phil Collins from the 1989 record, But Seriously, which is my second. It could be my favourite Phil Collins solo album. I know I just do a ranking, but that can of course change. It could be either that, Face Value, or Dance to the Light, or even Testify, or No Jack Required, or Hello I Must Be Going. Or even going backward both sides, which is incidentally the whole discography. Anyways, and then when you say Father to Son, it's also like saying Father and Son, a song title by Cat Stevens, one of his most famous songs, if not the most famous song ever. And it's also a different song mentioned in a song that was played in the Aladdin and the King of Thieves direct-to-video sequel, because again, Aladdin is the man and always will be. And that sequel, I think is pretty good, but not quite as good as the first 2 movies, but still enjoyable at times, that one. Even though Robin Williams did come back for the genie, because again, Genie is the comedian. Anyways, so that was the entrance of procession of classes. Chapter 2 was the welcome address by my principal, and basically giving a few good moments about how our time was in that school, basically. And basically, I actually got the graduation on a videotape from my next door neighbour as a Christmas present. So then, about a few months ago, we went to the DVD centre in Dublin just to get 3 copies of my graduation. So I think, in honour of the 1-year anniversary of the graduation, I might watch the video in its entirety. But apparently they didn't pick every moment. They just started with the welcome address from my principal, and I thought it was very funful. I thought it was a very thoughtful message. Anyways, Chapter 3 was an opening performance by a group of students singing the Beatles song Hey Jude, which is on the past masters, but it was recorded during the White Album sessions. And as I said before, that album will be celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, as well as the 55th anniversary of With the Beatles, which came out on the same day as the White Album. And I liked the version of Hey Jude, and it was performed by a good few people in there, named Greg Bauer, Darren Maguire, Scott Brooks, Matthew Mulcahy, Colin Dowling, Mark Dockrell, and Manus Storley. And they did a great cover of that, and they were accompanied by Conor Grant, Fionn McGillicuddy, and Ben Morris on the guitar. And I was quite surprised to find out when that Ben Morris played guitar, because I knew the other two guys were in the same music class as me, and Ben Morris didn't do music. And they did their version of Hey Jude in the key of B major, which the original one is in F, and I kind of like that way where you go from F to B, because since D is the minor chord of F, B is the minor chord of D. Like, for example, the Temptations song Just My Imagination was actually in the C major version, but Booker T and the MGs did a cover of that in F sharp, and that version is on the That's the Way It Should Be album. And as I said before, I stated it was their best album, but after I finished my cover of the R-Tunes 1982 tour for It's Hard, I basically never played that album again. I don't need to, because I've heard it so many times, but I might play it again in the future, who knows. I might only just play Sarasota Sunset, because it is my favourite track on the album. Anyway, I loved the performance of Hey Jude. Chapter 4 was the Deputy Principal's address. And I remember reading on the school website, she stated that the doors were always open for us to come back in, just tell us how we've been keeping up to date. I haven't dropped back in once, and I haven't dropped back into my primary education as well, because in case you guys were wondering how I felt about leaving the secondary school, I was quite sad, alright, but again, I was just glad that there was no more uniforms to be worn, because I didn't really like my uniform that much. I basically wanted to wear my own clothing, but then a friend of mine said to me, if you do that, you'll be out the door. But anyway, it was a nice address from my deputy principal as well. Chapter 5 was another performance in the graduation. It was performed by a student named Avian Kelly, and she was accompanied by Dominic Latin. They did the Elvis Presley song Can't Help Falling in Love, but they played it in C major, which is a whole step down from the original, which is in D. Like, sometimes, particularly in live concerts, the performers would tend to take them down a bit, especially if the singer's voice is getting low. Like, for example, Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah is in C major, but I remember on the Old Ideas tour, which was the last tour he did, I remember it was played in B flat because of the age he was. And because that tends to happen a lot when some singer's voice starts to go a little bit hoarse. They kind of need to take the song down to a lower key. Anyway, that performance ended with a standing ovation, and I honestly thought it was a phenomenal performance. So that is cool. Chapter 6 was a Valedictorian. I don't know what that term means, but it was by a student named Hazel Preston, basically talking about all the memories they had within the last 6 years. But the thing is, though, I wasn't there until their last 2 years, because I was in a year below them. But I decided, because I had to catch up to them due to the age I was. And anyway, there had been a lot of laughters as well. And there's actually another Valedictorian on this list as well, which I'll talk about after I talk to you about the next 2 moments that are on this. Anyways. Chapter 7 was by I think it was a speech from one of the primary school teachers I had. And it was a pretty nice message as well. Anyways, Chapter 8 was the presentation of certificates and medals. And speaking of which, here's my medal from last year. So that's pretty cool. Right there. One side. The class of 2017. Because I was supposed to be in the I was supposed to be in the first year group from 2011 to 2012. Instead of being in the 2012 year. And a funny story was, when I got called out, I didn't bother. I didn't want to bother go up, because at first I was planning not to accept my award. And then some people congratulated me, but I told them not to, because it was that era I was in. I think it was 1983 at that stage, because it was the 80s. And to me, the 80s is a very threatening decade, especially if you are especially if you dreamed to be like somebody who was successful in the 60s and 70s, and then starting to go downhill in the 80s. But yet again, what they did was they went through each student in alphabetical order, of course by surnames, because it's a bit odd, because I wish they do it by first names. But anyways, then it was followed by chapter 2, 4, 6. Oh yeah, chapter 9 was another valedictorian, and this was by one of my bestest friends of all time named Adam Coggan. He now currently works in SuperValu, and basically his speech was so amazing. He was one of those people who had always been close to me in the last 2 years of secondary school. And I've seen him now only rarely since the education days, and we did manage to see each other at the devs back in September, which I thought was awesome. Anyways, now even though it was not on the graduation program, I actually performed a song as well, just to keep it as a surprise. If you want to know what song I did, I sang the Aladdin tune, Without Your Love, from the 1980 record McVicker. You guys would probably think I would have sang A Whole New World, or Friend Like Me, or Prince Ali, or any of those, or even some of the Return of Jafar songs like I'm Looking Out for Me, Nothing in the World Quite Like a Friend, Forget About Love, or maybe from Aladdin the King of Thieves, There's a Party Here in Agrabah, or Out of Thin Air. Because again, Aladdin is the man and always will be, and that Without Your Love song is just glorious that Aladdin sang. And for me, I ended up getting a standing ovation for that. Some people were amazed by it, especially for the people who had not heard me sing before. And I haven't done any singing performances for you guys in a while, but I'm going to come back to it soon. I think I'm going to do the Notting Hill Breeze to Railroad Work song, which was a group featuring the legendary Mark Knopfler, who I think is one of the best singers of all time. I'm soon going to buy his solo albums, because I don't have any of his solo albums in my album collection, because I do like some of Mark Knopfler's solo as well. But anyways. And then the last 3 moments here, the next one was a yearhead address from my yearhead, to thank them all for the 5 or 6 years that we had. Then it was followed by a video, which was basically all the memories of everyone for the past 5 or 6 years. And basically, the songs that were playing in the background included the Randy Newman song "You Got a Friend in Me," which was from the original Toy Story movie. And then there was the U2 song "Beautiful Day," which is the opening track from the 2000 record "All That You Can't Leave Behind." And there was also the Oasis song "Wonderwall" from "What Story Morning Glory." And to me, Wonderwall is the most overexposed song of all time, followed by Van Morrison, Brown Eyed Girl from Blowing Our Mind. But even if they're overexposed, it doesn't mean I hate them. They're still good. It's just I'm a bit tired of hearing those songs. And the same for the Oasis song "Don't Look Back in Anger." And it was also their idea to get from the David Bowie song "Look Back in Anger." And "Look Back in Anger" from David Bowie is on the 1979 record Lodger. So that was cool. And there was a lot of smiling and laughter and looking at all the funny photos. And this included some of the photos from Newbridge Park as well. So, and then the last song in the graduation ceremony was the song "All Star" by Smash Mouth. And it was also in the original Shrek movie, because again, Shrek at number 3 for the bass, Homer at number 2 for the guitar, and then Aladdin number 1 for the singers, because again, Aladdin is the man and always will be. And then for 4, it could be Wallace for the drums. And then the funny story was, I kept asking people who was better between Aladdin or Shrek, and when they always went Shrek, I was like, no! And because obviously everyone who knows me at this stage knows who I prefer, because obviously Aladdin is my answer. And let me know in the comment section below who you prefer between Aladdin and Shrek. And then if you want, put them in the order of who you prefer between Aladdin, Homer, Shrek and Wallace. I'd be very interested to know who your favourite is in the comment section below. And I thought All Stars was pretty good. It was, the original key was in F sharp, but we did it in the key of C, which as I said before was a good idea, you know, to do 2 minor keys, you know, going from F sharp to E flat and then E flat to C, and then, you know, like what I said about Hey Jude, you're going from F down to D down to B, which was pretty awesome as well. So anyway, that's the end of the ceremony, and now what I'm going to show you is some photos.